Today, we're going to be helping our friends at SARTORO to show them exactly how they could become an industry leader in the custom suit business. Pat from Intergrowth here. We're taking a slightly different approach with this week's AEO SEO audit for e-commerce brands. We're looking at our friends at SARTORO. Andy, thanks for giving us the okay to put this together. Little bit of background going into this. We started out with our normal checklist, running through the 15-minute audit that we normally go through. Candidly speaking, the Sartoro team is doing an excellent job on the SEO and AEO front. So most of the items on our initial checklist that take 15 minutes or so to run through have already been accounted for. We're going to spend the first couple minutes of this walkthrough diving into the items that they haven't capitalized on yet, that are going to be quick wins, that are going to help lead to some big revenue gains for them. But from there, rather than just turn this into a short video, what I wanted to do instead is actually do a deep dive into what it would take for them to become a market leader and really overtake some of the big names in the space like Indochino. So with that, I'll share my screen and we'll jump in. Okay, so again, the initial items from our 10-step checklist are going to be brief. So we're going to jump right in and then we're going to get into the really big long-term stuff that's going to really move the needle for them. So first thing that jumps out to us when we look at the Sartoro website, one of the things we're going to see is when we analyze the homepage and other pages on the site, there are limited but important schema updates that would be really helpful for them to roll out. And fortunately, this is a really quick one-time fix. So if we look at the schema that they have on their homepage, and we'll see a lot of this reflected on other pages of the site as well, we'll see that they have same as schema, which is like one of my favorite recommendations to roll out for nearly all brands that we work with. But there are two glaring opportunities. First is when we look at all these different properties that they're saying are associated with the Sartoro brand, we have this random Discord link for this Shopify devs related link. My assumption is that this is a placeholder that was put in place by the dev team when they originally built the site. Straightforward update, but Andy, definitely pull that link out of the same as schema. It's just irrelevant for you guys. The other thing that stands out is you guys have a really powerful TikTok page. However, that TikTok page isn't featured in the same as schema. So quick update, remove that Discord link, add your TikTok social profile into the mix. Again, for listeners that maybe haven't seen one of these audits before, same as schema is really a tool to make it easier for search engines and LLMs to really connect the dots between different properties that are associated with your brand. So your website being one property, your Instagram page being another property, your YouTube page being a third property. Same as schema is something that you add onto your website that ultimately just makes it way easier for search engines to understand that all of these individual entities are all associated, in this case, with the Sartoro brand. So it's a quick fix. It's just helpful for search engines, and it's going to lead to a nice little ranking bump that really just comes from you earning all the credibility and capitalizing on all the credibility across all of these different entities on the internet. From there, this is going to get more so into what I'd call like the crawlability side of SEO. So the next thing that I want to take a look at is the, broadly speaking, crawlability side of the website. And this is going to be how we're telling search engines and large language models to analyze pages on our website and which pages they should actually be showing within their index and in search results or in prompts. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at your sitemap file. So when we look at your sitemap file, specifically on Shopify sites, you're going to see a structure very similar to this. What I want to call your attention to is this bottom sitemap file in here. There's some red flag, or there's some yellow flags, let's call it. Let's not be over hyperbolic. But I would encourage you to look through all these sitemap files and run through the same experiment that we're about to do. When we look specifically at this sitemap file, we see that there are a whole bunch of pages that we're listing on our sitemap file. In other words, we're telling search engines, hey, show these pages in your index and spend time and spend resources reanalyzing these pages on a regular basis. Specifically, we're saying, hey, these pages change daily, analyze them regularly. For e-commerce sites in particular, it's very important that we're strategic about how we set up the crawl structure of our site. Looking at your site, what I found before, there's 1,100, 1,200 individual product pages, not to mention all the collections pages or PLPs that are in the mix. So when we look through these pages, I pulled up, I believe it was Monica and Joe right here. It might have been Manny Lois, but we'll take a look here. Manny Lois, okay, so I was mistaken. So we look here, this is one of the pages that we're telling search engines to regularly crawl and to actually show in their index. As we can see right here, this probably isn't a page that you want indexed on your website. Really it's an image and then it's a title and then a name. My assumption, because I see pages like this, is that it's a developer page that was built out to be part of a larger page template. And these pages have just remained indexed over time. So highly recommend go through, find any sort of pages that are like this within your sitemap files. If you just pull these up individually, you can scan through the list and you'll be able to, especially having a good knowledge of the site, you'll be able to spot pretty quickly pages that right off the bat, you're thinking, hey, these should not be showing up in search engines. Add a meta robots no index tag to it. There are a whole bunch of great Shopify apps that will make that far more straightforward. So you don't need to actually go into the code base in order to roll that script out. But would highly recommend doing that for, I would assume it's going to be every one of the pages in this meta objects template, but would encourage you to run through this list for all these other sitemaps as well. From there, the third, call it quick fix, that I'd highly recommend that you look into, I refer to this as LLM sentiment analysis. And let me pull it up right over here. So I love going through the process of asking an LLM what their perception is of our brand. So I typically start out with a question, something along these lines. I'm looking for a custom suit company. I've heard the name Sartoro come up in conversation. What's your perception? One thing I really like to emphasize is try to keep the request for information as unbiased as possible. Don't indicate that you're leaning towards your own brand. You want to play the role of a potential customer and get a ideally unbiased take from ChatGPT. Now, when I run through this, ChatGPT has phenomenal things to say about you guys. I mean, they're pretty objective. They find some pros, some cons in every business. Really, the only con they could find is that there are some brands that have been around longer than you guys, and that's something that'll just change with time. So the follow-up process I went through is looking through and just trying to understand what are some of the types of questions. Here we go. What are some of the follow-up questions that I should be asking if I'm a potential customer that ChatGPT wasn't able to find online from its initial analysis? Now, the opportunity that strikes me within this is ChatGPT here will pull together, and all the other LLMs will do the same thing, a breakdown of all sorts of different questions that would be really good for a potential customer to ask or look for more information about before they make a purchase. I like to say this is a really glaring way that ChatGPT is saying to us, I can't easily find this information online. So two realities can be true. Either one, that information doesn't exist online, in which case it's a huge opportunity for us to include that on like a master FAQ page that maybe we would link to on our main navigation, or maybe that we would put it like in a standalone blog article if it's a relevant enough theme. The second is that we have that content on our website, but we're not making it easily accessible enough. So really great tangible example of that. First theme that pops up in here is talking all about suit construction. Now, when we look on the Sartoro website, there's a dedicated page all about suit construction, breaking down all these different elements of how the shirts are made, how the suits are made, you name it. I would argue this is going to answer every single question that ChatGPT or a potential user, a potential customer has about your clothing structure. However, ChatGPT isn't able to find any of that information with ease. So, big opportunity that stands out is making this page more easily accessible. My recommendation would be run through this list and first ask yourself, do we have dedicated content on the website that answers these questions? One. Two, if these questions are irrelevant, skip over them. That's totally fine. This is an ideation tool. Or three, if we do have this content, how can we make it more easily accessible to LLMs? The most straightforward way to do that is going to be looking for any sort of opportunities on the site where we can include internal links to pages like this. You guys have put a ton of resources in the past year and a half into blogging. So in particular, look for opportunities within existing blog articles where you can link to this suit construction page. Do the same for any other like product information related pages like this. It's going to drastically improve the readability and accessibility of these pages and help to answer a lot of those questions for the next time someone goes to ChatGPT and has all these follow-up questions about Sartoro suits. So with that, we're now going to jump into the long-term side of things. We've exited out of a bunch of tabs now, and now we're just going to talk big picture. One of the things that I find really helpful to do when trying to understand the AEO, SEO market opportunity for a brand is to look at some of the much larger competitors and get a sense of how are these competitors winning and what is the market opportunity if we were to overtake one of these competitors. So two big ones stuck out to me in particular, Oliver Wicks and Indochino. Couple data points that we're going to pull in. This is all stuff directly from the Ahrefs toolbar. I'm going to walk you through everything we're looking at here. Oliver Wicks, there's two big metrics we're going to be looking at, this RD and this ST. RD, root domains, or the total number of websites that are linking to their entire website. ST, the estimated amount of people that they're getting to their site every month from search engines like Google. So we can see Oliver Wicks, they're getting 45,000 people coming to their site from Google every single month. Big reason for that, they have 460 different websites on the internet linking back to them. Okay, so now we're going to dive into big picture opportunities for the SARTORO brand. For context, what I find to be most helpful with starting this analysis is to look at the big picture market opportunity for the business. What I find really helpful for that is looking at some of the largest competitors in the space, getting a sense of ultimately what level of search traffic do these brands get, so that we have a sense of what is kind of that market threshold that we could reach if we were to completely overtake our biggest competitor. So a couple big ones that we looked at were Oliver Wicks, Hawkerty, and then Indochino for this. Within this, there are two data points that we're going to look at to compare ourselves, and I'll show you why these are important and the exact takeaways that we have from them. So first thing that we're looking at right here, we're going to look at two big metrics for ourselves and these other brands. First thing is going to be referring domains. This is a total count of how many different websites on the internet are linking back to our website. So for SARTORO, we can see 542 websites on the internet are currently linking to us. Within that, and again, these are third-party estimates. This is coming from Ahrefs. So you guys might see slightly different data in Shopify Analytics, Google Analytics, whatever primary analytics platform you're looking at. Search traffic, or the number of people getting to this site every single month on average from Google, is estimated to be 6,500 people. So 542 websites linking back to us, 6.5, let's call it for simple rounding, 6.5 thousand people getting to our site every month from Google. If we look at Oliver Wicks, we see they have 44,000 people getting to their website every month, this little ST being search traffic. And then referring domains, we can see they have 460 referring domains. So they have less websites linking back to them, but see way more search traffic. We're going to explain why in just a second here. Hawkerty, we see that it's I would say a very different story in that, one, they do have significantly more traffic than both of these brands, coming in at almost 450,000 people, and then they have about 4.1 thousand different websites linking back to them. Probably no surprise, Indochino is going to be leader of, Hawkerty actually has the lead right there. So Indochino coming in second place, 5.7 thousand different websites linking back to them, 78,000 people getting to their site every month from search engines like Google. So links, I like to say, are the currency of the internet. They are a really powerful weighting mechanism for us to understand how trustworthy is one website versus another at a very broad strokes glance. It's not a perfect indicator, but it gives us a really good starting point for understanding how search engines and how LLMs are going to receive one brand as being more trustworthy versus less trustworthy than another. So we're going to see some exceptions to that rule, though. We saw SARTORO was coming in at 540 different sites linking back to us. Oliver Wicks comes in at 460, but they have significantly more search traffic than us. Now, the big reason being for Oliver Wicks is they have invested a ton of resources into educational content. We can see they have 512 pages on their website right now. Let's actually narrow that down. We'll see exactly how many blog articles they have. So they have 132 blog articles on their website. Now, if we look at the SARTORO site right over here, by comparison, we aren't too far behind, but we have 72 blog articles on our site at the moment. So Oliver Wicks, we can look at it as they've put twice as many resources into creating educational content. A lot of that content is also very top of the funnel, things like what are chino pants that I would say aren't going to drive a whole lot of sales to their business, but that'll explain why they have so much search traffic coming to them. At a very high level, though, they're getting all this incredible traffic, They're getting all of this incredible brand trust from search engines and LLMs as well because of all these resources that they're putting into content. And for the Sartoro team, you guys have started ramping up your content production in the past year and a half. Actually, yeah, really the past 12 months, it looks like. July 2025, things really, excuse me, wrong line. Here we go. Number of organic pages that have blogs in the URL. We went from 6 pages February 2025 to 68 pages as of July 2nd. So have drastically ramped up content production. You're producing, what is that, 6 articles a month, something along those lines. It's great to see. Huge opportunity for us to continue doing that. Now, if we look at some of these other brands, we look at, Hawkerty, we look at Indochino, really the big thing that's propping them up is they have far more websites linking back to them. So Indochino, 5.7 thousand websites linking back to them. Hawkerty, 4.1 thousand websites linking back to them. Overtaking these brands, there's really 2 avenues to take. There's one, get a ridiculously large amount of websites to link back to us. And if you want to do that in a conservative manner, that's a long-term process. Option 2, content creation, as you guys are already working on. So here's the specific approach that I recommend for your brand based on what we've seen work extremely well for other brands over the years. When I look at some of these competitors, right now they are perceived due to their link structure, to their link count, and call it the quality of the sites that are linking back to them. These brands are going to be perceived as more trustworthy in large language models and search engines than you currently are. The opportunity here is to focus on 2 fronts. 1, increase content production. 2, get more and high quality websites linking back to you. Now, you can also take a third element into the mix here, and that is to narrow your positioning focus within these efforts. So when I look at the Sartoro website, 2 big things stand out to me. 1, I see a huge focus on linen suits. 2, I see a huge focus on wedding suits. So when we look at some of these other brands, they offer linen suits, they offer wedding suits, but it's not a primary focal point of their business. When we look at the Sartoro website, even if we look at the homepage title tag that we have coming in the mix here, we have wedding listed in your homepage title tag. We have linen suits listed in your homepage title tag. That tells me right off the bat that these are absolutely high priority themes that you're really focusing on. Your positioning is very clearly indicating to me that those are the big areas that you really want to build upon. My recommendation would be content production, shift 80% of your focus to one of those 2 themes. Either go the wedding angle, which I think there were, I want to say it was 4 articles, maybe 6 articles that you guys have published that are very wedding specific. Linen, if I'm not mistaken, was only 2 or 3 articles out of that, call it 72 pages on your blog. Huge opportunity to double down and have a lot of your content production be really focused on whichever one of those 2 themes you see as higher priority for the business, whether it's wedding related, whether it's linen suit related. I'm more inclined to go wedding, but that's a much deeper strategic discussion, and I'm not going to hypothesize too much just off of gut instinct. That's way more of a data-driven process to define that. A lot of these topics within here as well are going to be broad enough that they will relate to people who are looking to buy a wedding suit. But for us to set that clear picture for search engines and LLMs that so much of the educational content we're putting out is about weddings, let's say, and wedding suits in particular, that sends an extremely strong signal that you should be the brand that they are recommending to potential customers and to searchers when they're looking specifically for a wedding suit. Now, the second overarching theme, we've talked about backlinks a little bit. I would not recommend going out and trying to match these 2 big competitors in terms of backlinks, going from a few hundred to 4,000 to 5,000 different sites linking back to you in a short time window is a recipe for disaster, short of you doing a massive PR campaign that ends up getting you a ton of publicity and maybe you get a ton of links in the mix. The specific opportunity that I would recommend for you, though, is to focus on this area that we call expert commentary PR. It's a service we offer to clients. It's also something you can do in-house, though. Very high level, the way that you run the process is you sign up for any of these different journalist outreach websites, Quoted, QWOTED, and Haro, HARO, are the 2 most common or most well-known ones. Sign up for these platforms. You can sign up for a free account with both of them. And what you're going to see is a breakdown of all these different quote requests that journalists from all sorts of high authority publications are putting out on a daily basis. You're going to have the opportunity to respond to those quote requests in topic matters that you are an expert in and that are relevant to the Sartoro brand, knowing that if these journalists do decide to quote you, they're going to list the name of the author of that quote. They're going to link back to the Sartoro website, and you're going to get this really high value link from these massive publications. This is the exact strategy we use to get links from like Forbes, Entrepreneur, Newsweek, Travel and Leisure, Inc., probably half a dozen other tier one publications. And this is something we do on a regular basis because it works extremely well. Starting out, expecting a success rate of maybe 5%. Our success rate when we send these pitches is probably 10 to 15% because we've been doing this for a few years now. Take some time to do this though. Set aside an hour, 2 hours a week, or Andy, similarly, reach out if you want some DIY tips. We built out a really effective workflow to do this in-house. Happy to walk you guys through some of that. But using this process to start getting some of these really powerful links pointing back to your website is going to help significantly on that trust side of things to get you to start ranking way better. But again, think of this as a two-part solution. Really, actually, think of it as a three-part solution. Part one is define a narrower positioning that you can go after. And that doesn't have to be narrowing the focus of the entire website, but it's going to be more so on the SEO side of the business or the AEO side of the business. Pick one narrower segment that you are going to focus on owning over the next 12 to 24 months. From there, I guess we'll say step two, focus 80% of your content production around that one narrower area. Again, the two themes that I would assume are going to be most likely to be the deciding factor are going to be between the linen focus and the wedding theme focus. Wedding themes, obviously way more educational content opportunities, but similarly, maybe linen is a better opportunity for your brand depending on what the competitive landscape looks like. Pick one of those themes, put 80% of your educational content efforts moving forward into that theme, and look to define yourselves as the leader in that narrower space. While you're doing that, focus on expert commentary PR. Put out these quotes for all these journalists that are looking for topics related to anything, call it formal wear attire, anything related to maybe like wedding planning if you choose to go the wedding angle. Anything along those lines is going to be phenomenal. It's going to build way more authority. As you do this, you're going to start gaining way more market share, specifically in that narrower set. And then longer term, we can evaluate what does it actually take to get you above a brand like Indochino. But this is going to help you to scale exponentially. This is a really exceptional starting point for starting to own a very particular sliver of the market segment and really take your SEO and AEO to the next level. That's all we got for today. We went way over on time per usual, but listeners, hope you found this helpful. Andy and Sartoro team, reach out if you have any questions to build upon this. But for listeners, if you are interested in having us audit your website next, email us audits@intergrowth.com, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.